At what age does your white privilege take effect? I grew up poor, and if I benefited from white privilege at all as a child or a teenager, I truly am thankful for that, because those times really sucked, and I surely didn't need another obstacle in my way during those trying times. Granted, I never had to be given the talk that if I get pulled over to keep my hands on the wheel and be respectful and no sudden movements, but I did have talks. My talk was more like, if your stupid ass gets arrested, you're staying there. No one has bail money to bail your stupid ass out. We rent this house. There will be no second mortgages to bail you out, let alone pay for an attorney. And I went to a different school every year of my life, from kindergarten to the 6th grade, before we settled into Levittown. I never really had any friends, as I was afraid to make any friends because I was always moving. And I was a chubby kid, and I wasn't really athletic or fearless enough to be good at the neighborhood sports like skateboarding or BMX. And we had neither the time or money or resources for me to be involved in any kind of team sports unless I could pull this off on my own. We were on food stamps and welfare and WIC, and we never had a new car. I remember the day we got a VCR, how little it took to feel like you were leveling up in the world. My mother had several men through the years when I was young, and none of them were really ever good to me. And alcoholism and drug use were common practices, as well as an abundance of domestic abuse that often spilled over into verbal abuse, aimed at me, and sometimes also led to physical abuse. Stop me if I've somehow glossed over the part where my white privilege was evident. I, for all intents and purposes, raised my 2 younger brothers until I was 18, as my mother had to work, and for a short time she went to college to try and progress her life forward. I was well trained domestically by this point, and I could cook and do laundry and clean laps around most of the moms in the complex. My brothers were younger than me and in elementary school and junior high school. So even though I was failing out of school myself, I was killing the game of homework for them. Not long after I turned 18, I discovered drugs. I was well aware of alcohol, but really hadn't drank much up to this point. That changed as well. For a young man who had lived very little up to this point, all I wanted to do was get out of my mother's house. And I was tired of being poor. I was tired of the social workers penalizing us if I worked at all. And most of all, just tired of the responsibility of co-parenting my brothers. To the point that when my mother and I would fight, she would sometimes refer to them as my kids. I devised a plan, and I executed it flawlessly. I immediately went out and met a girl named Casey that I worked with, and within 3 months of meeting her, we were on course to be parents ourselves. After a very brief period of freedom and great responsibility, I launched myself into the greatest and most intense responsible situation there was. In retrospect, I needed this. It's part of my character, and I don't do well without responsibility. I'm way too self-destructive and have too much of an addictive personality. Without others depending on me, I would crumble to nothing and be a homeless vagrant, dead many times over. For the last 32 years, I've worked on average no less than 60 hours a week in a couple different career paths, and I've held several side jobs and started a few businesses, and often worked 2 and 3 jobs at a time to support our family. I'm sorry. I know I started this chapter with white privilege, but I'm struggling to find it evident in any chapter of my life. Thanks.